Yeah, I woke up this morning and I saw a little bit afterwards. I saw Money Gang tweet, "Richard's moving funds into Aave," and I'm like, "What?" I started looking at the pictures, looking at the transactions. Like, huh, interesting. And then all the things about Aave and pairing and PDAI versus EDAI and the percentages and the yield and like all this stuff just started coming up in mind. And then also Storyteller 17, shout out to at Storyteller 17, wallet directly related to PulseChain sacrifice, moved 704K DAI into Fresh Wallet, and then went to the Compound protocol. And then another wallet directly related to SAC funds split 28 million DAI into two Fresh Wallets and deposited funds into Aave. So Aave, Compound and Aave are one of the oldest lending protocols. You get percentage on stable coins, all that stuff has the transactions and stuff here. Big moves happening, and of course, our friend Somi. I was telling Kong, I was like, I'm pretty sure somebody's going to cover this at some point, and I'm going to get another take on this. So it'll add to the conversation. And his is basically talked about that, and then his interpretation. Richie's turbo bearish on Bitcoin and ETF halving dump. He's parking stables earn yield portion while the rest of the market gets dumped by BTC. Probably like to deploy this in the midst of poopy dump. Now, when I first read that, I thought, interesting. So I took it as I don't quite agree with the market's going to go down and Richard's just going to earn, or we say Richard, but like OA, Greg Duck, whoever, the entity control and all this stuff is going to just earn money. They're just going to park it in there for a year or two. Look at that APY, 6%, going to get 6% on millions of dollars for the next year or so because the market's going to go down. The first thing that may come into people's mind is something like, oh, this is just a move to go accumulate capital over time to get a good rate on stablecoins and stuff. But then if you think go a little deeper onto it and probably look to deploy this in the midst of poopy dump. So I think what he's also saying here, pointing out, hey, maybe sideways, maybe crypto goes up, maybe goes left, right, sideways, whatever. But also if, again, reading on Richard's recent tweet, decorrelated question mark with ETH, if we are decorrelated and dumps happen for Bitcoin, crypto broadly, whatever is happening, and then you have these stable coins getting deployed, moves are being made in different ways. And there's all this, like, I'm not really going to touch on the different theories around stable coins and pairing and liquidity, all those. There's a ton of stuff of that. I have videos I posted even recently about Richard talking about liquidity bonding and Hart's law around that and stuff. But this, I guess the question is, Kong, what is your take on there's a whole bunch of different things that could happen with stable coins, but if they get deployed, they're in Compound and Aave and stuff right now. Do you think it's part of a liquidity bonding strategy, or do you think it's part of a long-term, hey, the market may go sideways, so I'm going to let this thing earn yield strategy? Or do you think it's a piece of, hey, maybe some short-term yield that can further increase the bags that could be injected later type of thing? I think those are like three different pieces I can think of off of this.
So what I think is he's probably trying to make a yield. Now, of course he's trying to make a yield, but what is he trying to use the yield for? I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to use it just to as like a maintenance fund or something like that. Like if he needs to, I don't know, like whoever owns the addresses, if they have expenses like with PulseChain that because I know there's different stuff that goes into running a blockchain. Like I don't think it's just like hosting a website where you just put it up there and just leave it. I think there's actually some tech and some things you have to do sort of behind the scenes. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's sort of using that to generate some yield for that. But I also wouldn't be surprised if he's going to start injecting doing some LP on PulseChain. Because I was watching that Twitter clip you were sharing on your YouTube of the spaces, and he was talking about how he was gonna let the chain sort of play out for however long, and then he would come in and set some liquidity and set some of the ratios and put some of his coins up, because he was saying like he wants to let the R bots sort of like manage parts of it and get everything situated. So because I think the issue is if you provide liquidity at the wrong ratio, you might get rinsed. So you don't want that to happen. And even if there's like different bots, like if there's something, an unknown variable, and there's like a pool somewhere that like someone can extract value somehow, that's not exactly what you want. So I think he was letting the chain sort of play out. And I think he was also, a part of it was like letting people feel like Richard abandoned them, and just like letting the believers go, or the non-believers go. People like obviously who think that this stuff is dead, it's not going anywhere. Like the SEC is coming down, it's over now. Like rinse out those guys. And like now that he's probably had the go ahead from his lawyers and stuff like that to do different plays like this, but I wonder what he'll do with the money. But I speculate he might. I speculate he'll most likely maintain on chain. Like maybe he'll take some of it off. I don't know if he'll take any of the yield away, but I wouldn't be surprised if he starts to move some funds into the PulseChain and provide some LP with different pools and stuff like that. And I thought I saw like a Twitter post like a little while back with someone saying Richard, or not Richard, but an entity was trying to provide liquidity, so where when the price was going up, they would lower the liquidity, or they would take away some of the liquidity. But as the price might be dumping, they would add some liquidity. So you essentially you let people dump on you basically, and you gladly take their tokens they're gonna sell to you. So yeah, I wonder what different sort of plays he's gonna be making. But now the chain's definitely matured. I think, like, I remember day one, 1 year shakeout is coming to a close. Exactly. So I think like if you guys remember, like the even when PulseChain first came out, when there's no data on the chart, there's no data on the pairs. I know even right now, I think a lot of the values on the PulseChain are mixed matched, like in terms of like utilities, I guess you could say, like yields, like things like if you're able to make like a 1,000 APR here for super duper cheap versus you're only making 2% APR over there, and it costs a lot. So different things like this, I think the market needs to like price out still. But the chain has matured a lot, and yeah, like Richard said, like 52 weeks to shake out the weak hands. I do wonder what he's going to use the yield for, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of it gets injected into PulseChain. Even if you think $20 million, like 5% of that is what is that, $1 million right there? So that's a nice little chunk of change if you can make a 5% yield on 20 million. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does with the yields and stuff like that. But I do think he'll probably inject some eventually into some liquidity pools on the PulseChain.
Glory plan intact, in my opinion. I'm I don't know how many times I could talk about over and over and over about this dude has a plan. Everything he does is deliberate. He wants glory. His whole mission is to mint millionaires and do great things in the world and like all this stuff. And people just don't. They look at the price and they see it's down, or they see it hasn't went up as much as they want to, and they just can't fathom. There could be some the good things can happen to those that wait. It's amazing. I hope all the believers, like I said, get rewarded. And there'll be plenty of people who came in late. Like there's plenty of people who didn't sack and they came in and they bought the lows, and they're going to make, they could make if everything goes to the moon, they're going to make a lot of money too. It's not like you can only reward the ones that stick around forever and got in early and all this stuff too. But boy, I think there's a way to reward people who believe at some point. And hopefully they'll do great things with those gains as well.